The Malik Willis experiment is about to get rocky. With just 6 career starts to his name, just one last season, the Miami Dolphins decided to fork over a 3-year, $67.5 million contract, 45 of that guaranteed, to quarterback a team that has not won a playoff game since the year 2000. Could the Dolphins have imagined giving him this contract before Week 17? Absolutely not. But then Jordan Love went down, Willis went in for his only start of 2025 and promptly dropped 288 yards, completed 85% of his 21 passes, 13.7 yards per attempt, rushed for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns on top of it, in a loss to the Ravens 41-24. That is an eye-popping day, no doubt, but I have 2 major concerns. How good actually was he, and can he succeed long-term in Miami? To answer those, we'll dive into that Sunday, December 27th, when his life changed, where here we can see his passing chart thanks to NFL Next Gen stats. As we can see, most of his passes were to the sidelines. He did have a few beautiful passes over the middle, but most of his balls were deep outs against off coverage or deep go balls outside. These are still challenging throws to hit consistently in their own right. I'm not trying to minimize how far Willis has come to cleanly and consistently hit these over and over, but when reviewing his film, it's clear that Matt LaFleur watered down the game plan, didn't open up the entire playbook to Cook, just dialed up more isolated throws to the outside, which are easier decisions to make. This is because Willis is still raw. He was extremely raw coming out of college. He had incredible talent, but struggled with his decision making and seasoning. For example, this is an alert fade route where there's this whole concept over here, but pre-snap and then post-snap, if Willis sees the safety is sitting in the middle of the field, then stays over the middle of the field, like he does after the snap, Willis can ignore everything to his right and just throw a one-on-one fade. Not the easiest throw, but the easiest decision, absolutely. Seeing him complete this pass in an NFL game is huge, but it doesn't really answer the question of how much he's developed in the areas he's needed to. What we've needed to see is his ability at the actual position of quarterback, the footwork, the timing, getting through his reads. And while all of that has improved drastically compared to his time in Tennessee and in college, there are still certainly problems. For example, he didn't hit his checkdowns on time, which is an underrated part of the position. Your footwork dictates when the ball should be thrown. If the first and second reads aren't there, it's checkdown time. And since concepts are designed to force defenders to choose between a deeper route or shallower route if they're playing zone coverage, if they're deep, you need to hit the checkdown quickly to maximize the amount of space between your checkdown receiver and the defender. There were a few times where he didn't hit the second read in time. There were little pre- and post-snap elements he could have picked up on that he didn't that would have helped him complete this pass here. This is a simple slant-flat concept where if it's zone coverage, we're horizontally stretching the flat defender, making him choose one of the routes. But if it's man coverage, which it is on the backside, we need to punish the depth of the safety. This looks like it's a zone coverage pre-snap tell because nobody follows the tight end. Maybe this is what trips Willis up. However, when the second level bumps over, there's this open space for the safety Alohi Gilman to come down to, which, whether it's man or zone, we know Gilman's coming down. If he doesn't, there's nobody in the weak side B gap for a potential run. So Willis should know this, should see him coming from depth, and should quickly hit Josh Jacobs in the flat to give him the chance to break a tackle and pick up a big gain. However, he doesn't throw it to Jacobs, runs around, which he is good at, but here he gets sacked. Now, he was incredible in a lot of ways. Hell, he almost completed all of his passes, but that doesn't mean the film was always good. Whereas John Gruden says, the check down on 4 verticals is attempted a high percentage of the time, but here Willis misses it, yet still makes an explosive play. Between a watered down game plan, constantly throwing to the outside, which are easier decisions, not hitting his checkdowns or second reads, he had plenty of flaws pop up that worry me, but there were still positives, which does give me hope for the future. The Ravens are trying to show him a blitz look with Kyle Hamilton creeping down towards the line. Alohi Gilman is trying to show like he's heading towards the middle of the field where the Ravens would play blitz coverage. When defenses blitz, you're usually more or less playing man coverage with a one high safety because you don't have the bodies to play sufficient zone coverages, so Willis could predict this is in fact a blitz. That's why Malachi Starks has man eyes on Christian Watson, locked on him. Also why he's inside leverage so he can force an outside throw. When blitzing, you want to play inside leverage because there's no help in the underneath middle area. Right now, Willis thinks Hamilton is potentially blitzing, and since the Packers are running 4 verticals, a middle seam route and man coverage is not what we're trying to attack. But at the snap, the Ravens drop into a pretty well-disguised Tampa 2 zone defense. They have 2 deep zone safeties covering deep halves, then since there's such a wide gap in between them, we have Roquan Smith who kinda blows the coverage. He's supposed to be defending the middle area. Willis drops back, sees both safeties are dropping to their halves, and rips the now open seam up the middle to Christian Watson for the best play of the young quarterback's career. This was one of the few plays that went over the middle. We saw the chart, tons of stuff to the sidelines. And while I outlined this as a negative, Willis did do a good job of identifying soft zone coverages outside and capitalizing. Here the Packers are trying to set up a cover 0 look for later. Cover 0 is an all-out blitz, straight man coverage. Any outbreaking route works because once again you want to play inside leverage since you don't have any help over the middle underneath. And outbreakers especially work against cover 3 zone with the cornerback bailing backwards. And against cover 2 zone invert like we have here, it works as well. So now later on we have the play the Ravens did set up. They faked cover 0 before out of a cover 0 look, so let's hit him with actual cover 0 now. The corners are way off for some reason, so not only will their inside leverage not work against an outbreaking route, they're so far off it'll be hard to drive all the way down on anything underneath them. I don't necessarily hate a team shelling out a contract based on a quarterback's one really good game. I just don't know if Miami properly evaluated this game and the bad situation they're bringing Willis into. In terms of this 2025 start, Matt LaFleur scaled down the playbook big time. For example, he ran a dagger variation 8 different times, that is 38% of Willis's dropbacks, and then some of the other big plays were deep bombs outside. I mean, where are the receivers on this Dolphins team that are gonna win these one-on-one matchups after they just traded Jalen Waddle? Willis threw quick outs, alert fades a large chunk of the day, and then missed his checkdowns and rolled out and scrambled or got sacked. And then, from a more zoomed out perspective, I'm worried that a lot of bad teams are going to try to find the next Sam Darnold. They're going to take really talented quarterbacks who haven't had a lot of success in the league. They're going to hope they find the next Sam Darnold instead of having a plan to find the next one. The difference is, Darnold went to a Vikings team that was absolutely loaded and simply became a piece of the puzzle. Minnesota had an elite all-time receiver, good other offensive weapons, a good offensive line, a great head coach. It was not all on Darnold to carry them. He was the cherry on top, and it was the same when he went to the Seahawks. Great organization, some great offensive pieces, a really, really good defense and head coach. Darnold has never been asked to be the guy. There's an old scouting adage which puts quarterbacks into one of 2 buckets. You're either the tractor or the trailer. The tractor is the leading force pulling everybody along, and the trailer is hitched to the tractor. It's just another part of the car. Darnold was a trailer in Minnesota, you could say the same in Seattle, but he's been successful in large part because he had that elite supporting cast, the roster, and coaching. Malik Willis right now is without a doubt a trailer. There's just way too many unknowns about him, but the way this Dolphins team is constructed with one of the worst rosters in the league, a rookie defensive head coach in Jeff Hafley, and Bobby Slowick as his offensive coordinator who just flunked out of Houston after 2 seasons, Willis is basically forced to be a tractor to have success in Miami. And what's worse, Darnold was still developing during his time in Minnesota, whereas Malik almost has to carry this horrible team from the get-go. Despite the fact Darnold exploded, he was learning to be a trailer, learning to be good in the league, then potentially still down the road march slowly towards being great. Willis doesn't have the same experience that Darnold did, yet is being asked to yield the same results. There is a big difference between being the guy and being good on a good team. But Willis doesn't have any of the advantages Darnold had, and on top of everything, he had one of the best QB developers in the entire league. I do think it's possible Malik Willis works in Miami, and I do think he's very talented. But this whole maybe he's the next Sam Darnold doesn't sit right with me. These are vastly different situations. Hoping a guy is a franchise quarterback when you have nothing around him to support him is doomed from the beginning. If Darnold was handed the keys to a lesser roster without a good head coach, he would not have nearly had the same success. I don't like being negative. I want everybody in the league to succeed, but I do not think Willis will be successful for a franchise that doesn't have a precedent of winning. They have a rookie head coach, a somewhat unproven play caller, a roster devoid of talent, and a young quarterback who has just 6 career starts to his name. The only thing that can save Malik Willis is his talent, and he does have plenty of it. Crazier things have happened than an inexperienced young quarterback turning a struggling franchise around. So prove me wrong, Malik Willis. Take the Dolphins to the playoffs and win them a goddamn game.